Welcome to Switchcraft and Switchery, everyone. I'm Ryan, and today we're going to be covering some of the details from the Donkey Kong Bananza Direct. Now, I'll say this, we're not going to go frame by frame and analyze every little thing. We're just going to be talking about the cool things that I saw initially after watching the Direct, and maybe like some cool details or some things that I'm excited about. Now, let me say, overall, this game just looks so much fun. It, to me, is Nintendo at its best. You're in a 3D platformer in this vast open world with just tons of stuff to do. It kind of harkens back to DK64, it looks like, with tons of collectibles. There are some Mario Odyssey elements even to me, like with their track listing and the way they're doing music. There are different shops, you can customize your clothing. Just all the great elements so far that we've seen Nintendo build on over the years, all the way back to the first Mario 64. It just seems like this is the next level. And wow, does this game look beautiful, and it looks a ton of fun. It's got a ton of surprises too. So let's dive into some of the first things that I saw in the Direct. So the first thing that they just kind of hit you with right off the bat in the beginning of the Direct is we had seen in like the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal Direct. They showed Donkey Kong Bananza. Donkey Kong's working with Odd Rock. Odd Rock can kind of do some different abilities and things, and that was kind of like the main story beat. All right, you're going to be working together. But in this, kind of straight up, first thing, they reveal that Odd Rock is actually a young Pauline. Now, if you don't know anything about Pauline, Pauline was actually like kind of like Nintendo's first damsel in distress for the original Donkey Kong game, all the way back in like the early 80s. And so, you know, Mario or Jumpman would go through the levels and try to save Pauline from Donkey Kong. So this is a super cool use of characters. Obviously, we saw, Pauline brought back in New Donk City, which also was a really cool connection, but she's like the mayor of New Donk City. So this is completely like flipping that whole idea and just saying, like, instead of the damsel in distress, we now have Donkey Kong and young Pauline working together. And they kind of describe the story beat as like, they're both trapped under the ground, and the legend is they've got to get to the center of the planet, and apparently a wish will be granted if they get to the center of the planet, which would probably be returning to the surface. So really cool twist. I wouldn't have guessed in like, if you gave me 100, if you give me 200, if you give me 1,000 guesses, if you were like, hey, Odd Rock is going to be someone, who would it be? I would have never guessed Pauline. Like, that just wouldn't have ever come into my mind. So really cool reveal there. So the first thing they kind of hit us with after the Pauline reveal is the 3D platforming elements. And wow, does it look really cool in this game. There's some things that we've never seen before. In past Directs, they kind of introduced the idea that you can just break whatever. But in this, they confirm, like, there is just so much to destroy if you want. And that's going to be really, really cool to see what all you can do. There's tons of stuff probably hidden inside of things that you've just got to break through. They showed off some of the cool moves that DK is going to have, like punching and slamming, bashing down into the ground with his fists. It just looks like this game is going to have so much to find. And if we go off of like, older DK stuff with collectibles and things, I can guarantee you there's going to be all sorts of hidden things that we're going to have to uncover in this. The other thing that they kind of showed that is definitely, I think, different than a lot of other Nintendo games, maybe you could say Breath of the Wild and Tears had this, where you could like sort of climb right off the bat, but you already had this this stamina penalty in those games. So you really couldn't go wherever you wanted until like late game. At least right now, from what the Direct they showed, like DK can just kind of do whatever. Like, he can climb up the side of a mountain from like, second one. And that is just going to add like an incredible element of exploration, because you can just go anywhere. Like, the freedom to be able to do that in these early levels is going to be pretty insane. So one of the final elements that I kind of took away from the platforming, which is just so unique than any other game I think I've ever seen before, is the ability to actually use the terrain yourself to your advantage. And it looks like the different types of terrain do different things. I mean, I know that sounds really simple, but like, you tear off a piece of the wall and you can use the rock to bash enemies. You tear off a piece of ice and you can like skate over lava and carve a path. But it looks like that, that ice melts, it goes away. So, you're going to have to be pretty judicious about what you utilize. There's also some sort of like rainbow tile that I saw that, DK rips off and he starts shooting up in the air and it gets smaller, as it's being used up. So it looks like there's going to be all sorts of cool elements with this terrain. And they've really gone like all in like looking at the terrain, how it can be used, how it can be destroyed, and how players can use it to their advantage. And I just think that that is a really cool, unique thing that I've never seen in any game before. So the next thing they kind of give us a glimpse on is these elders, these giant elders that are deep underground under these subterranean levels. And, you've got a couple of different ones that they kind of show off. They show off 3. Who knows if there'll be more, but, I guess you're going to have to go through some sort of a challenge. And then Pauline, using her ability to sing, actually gives you the ability to transform into kind of these different modes, which is pretty cool. Like this idea that your companion actually helps you transform is a really cool use of synergy there. Because they could have just made it where DK gains like a token and then he can transform wherever he wants. But like Pauline is that one that helps you go that further step. They show, that you can transform into kind of these Bananza forms or whatever. So you've got the Kong Bananza, and that gives DK the ability to be really strong, turns into kind of this Super Saiyan gorilla thing. Then you've got, I think, the Zebra Bananza, which allows, DK to do a few other things like run really fast. He can actually run on water. You've got this kind of final one that they showcase, the Ostrich Bananza, which gives him the ability to fly. And I think what's really cool is the art style with all these. It's like DK's still DK, but he also has these weird elements where he's like a zebra now. Like he looks like DK Zebra, which sounds really silly to say, but when you look at it, you can still tell he's Donkey Kong. So the next thing that they introduce is kind of the main antagonist for the game as we know it right now. There's a few things that make me think that there could be some twists and turns with this, just like the fact that they had Oddrock, and for months we thought, hey, Oddrock is like your companion, and surprise, it's Pauline. So I think there could be some other surprises on the way, and I'll get to that in a second. But Void Company is kind of the main antagonist, and right now they've revealed that it's run by 3 Kongs that I don't think we've ever seen before. It's run by Grumpy Kong, who makes these kind of like corporate soldiers. They're like bosses, and you're going to fight them. I would sure there's more enemies that Grumpy Kong has made throughout the world that maybe are like, big bads. Then you've got Poppy Kong. And Poppy Kong, I don't really know what she does other than they say she gathers info or something like that. And then you've got kind of the leader, which is Void Kong himself. And so, those are kind of the main antagonists. And it looks like their goal is kind of the similar goal that you have of getting to the planet core for whatever reason that might be. So the next thing they kind of hit us with is what these Banandium gems can do. You can collect Banandium chips, which look like slices of banana, and then you can exchange them for Banandium gems. And as you get more Banandium gems, obviously there's probably things that you need for those to progress, but you also can use those elements to upgrade Donkey Kong, which is pretty cool. I would go back to like Mario Odyssey, where, obviously a lot of 3D platforming games, you might gain a skill, but it pretty much remains static throughout, the game. You get like a cap jump with like Cappy, and that's it. Like now you have it. That's great. But with these Banandium gems, as you earn more, you can kind of like tailor Donkey Kong to the style of play that you want to do, which is really neat. And you can gain new skills. And what's so cool about that to me is like there may be things that you don't want to spend money on. Or don't want to spend Banandium gems on. You don't have to, but like if you love to just smash through stuff, you can just upgrade DK's destructive powers, like his punching and probably his slamming and his clapping, or like ground pound or whatever. Like you can just upgrade those to suit your playstyle, which I think is a really, really cool idea for a platformer like this. So we also get a look at some of the other collectibles and kind of what their uses are throughout the game. We already talked about gold and how it builds Bananergy, and you can use those to transform into your Bonanza modes. But gold is also used to buy like buff items or whatever. So they kind of go through here and show like one of these is like, take no damage from a fall. There's, I think like the melon juice or something that allows you to like automatically just transform, into a Bonanza mode. So it's going to be interesting to see what all kind of buffs they have. It really looks like they're giving you the option to kind of tailor to your play style. Again, going to like, being able to mod with Banandium gems and like gain items that like, hey, you like to go up high and mess around, but you might fall, like no damage, right? That's really cool. They also talk about fossils, and as you gain these fossils, you can exchange them for clothing. And this is a cool step up. When you look at this clothing, all of these different clothing items give buffs throughout the game. So like you can see here in the screenshot that, if you have a different tie, it increases the chance of a treasure chest appearing. Your swimming pants, your swimming britches, sorry. You can move by 15% in water, and even Pauline has some cool buffs for her clothing. So it's really neat to see, and you can also see that all these are level 1. So obviously, like, it gives you incentive to find the clothing that you like, but also like you get advantages for wearing certain things, which is really cool, and you can level those up. So I'm sure, like, with the treasure tie, right? Like, it's level 1. What happens if it's level 3? Is there higher than level 3? We don't know. But just the idea that like you have this cool incentive to be able to get these collectibles because it's going to make the game easier or more fun in certain elements. That to me is a really cool idea. The upgradability for just about every collectible that you get adds some fun element to the game. So they also give you a way to kind of like track your progress with all these different collectibles, which immediately reminded me of like Odyssey, right? The ability to see like, hey, have you found like a Banandium challenge? Have you completed it? Do you not even know what it is yet, but it's there on the list, like you haven't got it yet? I think that that's going to be really, really helpful. They also talk about getting like treasure maps and being able to identify on the world map the different collectibles available. So that's going to be super helpful because, if you're like, hey, I didn't even know this was there, how can I complete it? But you find a treasure chest, which again goes back to like that treasure tie buff, right? Hey, you buff up that treasure tie, it gives a higher percentage chance of the treasure chest revealing. You can get the map, then you can find the other collectibles. Like, very, very useful progression right there. And that gives you incentive to kind of find fossils right off the bat. And so those kinds of things, I feel like they've thought about to make the game more fun and give more rewards for actually collecting the stuff. So I didn't want to like completely blow over the music stuff real quick, because music has always been such a cool part of Donkey Kong. It has such a great soundtrack, even going to like N64 with the DK rap right at the beginning. Like, it just has such cool music, and they've kind of done what they did with Odyssey of have this nice big track list and these areas where you can kind of like take a break and listen to the different songs, and things like that. So that's a really cool thing, especially since they've put so much time and effort into the soundtrack, it sounds like already. Another thing that they show here is with these worlds being so big, they give you basically these teleport, they call them teleporting, with like eels that just like take you from like one layer to the next, so you can go between the different layers of the world. You also have the ability to warp to different points inside the world using this teleporting, and that's helpful since you've got these big platformer worlds, kind of like the flags in Odyssey. Just a massive time saver, especially if you're trying to do like a full complete of a list and you're like, hey, I started in this layer, but I need to go to this next level, and then I need to go over here, right? Just being able to move quickly and save a bunch of time, because that's honestly always one of the most challenging part about like platformer collectibles, is like having to backtrack and just not really having a good way to do that. It looks like they've thought of that here to make sure that you have access for what you need. Now, they also show that there's like a photo mode, probably not something I'm going to use a ton, but it looks like they've put a lot of cool elements into this photo mode. It's something that I think people could have a lot of fun with and play around with, of being able to like, hey, get your picture just right. So if you want to put it on social media, be able to do some cool things in action shots and kind of show off, Donkey Kong, or a cool thing that you figured out. That's pretty cool. We'll just have to see what people end up putting up. Just kind of like with Mario Kart World, they did a really good job of like being able to have the photo mode available so that you can kind of show off what you're doing in the game. So they also showed off co-op mode, which was not something that I saw coming like at all. Even when you had Odd Rock, I don't know if people speculated on this. It just didn't even cross my mind of being able to have kind of a two-player experience here. And it's similar to Odyssey in like a second player being able to use Cappy. But this, I think, goes even further and makes it even more fun. Like I could totally see like, if you're playing with a child, being able to basically give them the mouse and they get a reticule on the screen to be able to like use Pauline's singing voice to like help do things looks really, really fun. Like it just, again, fun. It just looks fun. You can also with Pauline like grab like terrain and utilize it. So like, you can grab concrete as you're like fighting an enemy, like maybe made of sand, and use her voice to help like destroy that enemy or make it easier for like the person playing DK. And something too that I thought was just, again, completely out of left field, I didn't see coming, is game share. So the fact that you can take the game and game share it to another Nintendo Switch so the second player can be able to control Pauline. And you can also do that to a Nintendo Switch, which is really cool, especially if you're playing the game and you want that second player, if you've got that extra Switch, maybe again for a child, for them to be able to go on and have their own kind of experience with you. Guys, that to me is just the Nintendo way. Like playing together. Like I love that element, even if it's not like the most enjoyable experience per se. To me, that encapsulates a lot of what Nintendo is so good at. It's just saying like, hey, we have this game that could be completely fun, completely an awesome single player experience, but we're going to give you the opportunity to invite other people in to enjoy it with you. You can also game share over game chat. If you've got that to another Nintendo Switch 2, that might be fun. I don't see that quite being as cool of a thing as being in person, like having a kid with a Nintendo Switch 2, being able to help you with Pauline. But I could see that being really fun on like streams, right? Like you're trying to, go around and somebody else is controlling Pauline while you're fighting a boss. Like that seems like it could be like a really fun, like stream idea for other people to engage in and watch. So a few final things that I kind of pulled out from the Direct are, they have an assist mode in here, which, helps like guiding you to the next objective and also like having your damage. Again, this is something that I feel like Nintendo pulled out from like a previous Mario game, Mario Wonder, where they added the ability for like maybe, people who are having a hard time playing the game or younger players, maybe somebody who like doesn't have as good of dexterity with controls, they can still enjoy the game. And again, while this isn't something that I'm probably going to use, I think is really, really thoughtful and cool on Nintendo's part, just because it opens up the game for a wider audience. And I think that's smart on their part because, again, just from a money perspective, like you're going to get more people that are going to buy this if their younger child has the ability to play the game and not just get absolutely defeated all the way, or somebody maybe who is struggling with dexterity or something isn't able to complete a boss or something. You're going to get a sale from that. And it's also just an opportunity for them to have fun, which is the whole point of video games, right? So I thought that was a really cool addition to see in like one of their mainline platformers. They also showed off a really cool thing that I don't think we've seen since like Mario 64, when the game would load up, you would have Mario's head and you could kind of like modify his face and pull on his ears, pull on his, nose and, whatever. But they've got this kind of like creator mode with like a rock, and you can like, you make DK, and they show several different elements of things that you would be able to do, like, make like a Bowser head or a pizza. That looks like it's going to be really fun because, I'm probably not going to go in and use that, but like people with kids being able to take that and just be like, hey, here you go, see what you can make, right? Again, just fun. Like what a cool, fun element to add in. And then of course they have amiibo support. Now I don't have any amiibos. They've just not really interested me, but they said that, any amiibo that you have, like when you use it in the game, like it'll give you kind of like an upgrade or reward. You can get like these giant balls that are made, or rocks that are made of different elements that might help you throughout the level. So that's cool to see that they're continuing support for a product that they had in the last generation, and they're not stopping doing that. So the last thing that I kind of wanted to point out here before we wrap up is I saw this out of the corner of my eye while watching the Direct, and we're not here to go like frame by frame or analyze the like secret language that people have been talking about in like, you know, DK Bonanza, but there's actually two places that I saw where you see Dixie and Diddy Kong in the Direct. So they are in the game. I had been wondering that myself of like, hey, like what's Diddy Kong's status? I feel like we got him removed from Mario Kart World. DK's still in there, but like we finally just got him in 8, and he doesn't seem to have like got a ton of love, you know, over the last several years. And so I was like, is he even going to be in this game? And it's like, wow, Diddy actually is in this game. You know, they show at the end you're racing against Diddy and Dixie in kind of like a Rambi race. So it'll be interesting to see like what role he actually plays in there. And it's cool to see some familiar Kong characters besides Cranky Kong. So that's pretty much it. That is what I kind of took away from the Donkey Kong Bananza Direct. I think that this game just looks so much fun. It kind of takes all the elements that we've seen from previous Nintendo 3D platformers and just seems to build on them. And wow, this game, it looks great. And the physics look awesome. It was almost like they said, instead of just making everything super duper realistic, we're going to make it look amazing, go all in on awesome platforming, and just make everything destructible. It looks like a barrel of fun. I had to get that in there. But yeah, guys, if there were things that you saw that I missed, throw it in the comments. If there's like cool stuff that you're trying to let people know about that you picked out, you're excited, let us know in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. We're probably going to be trying to get this game day one. I'm typically not a day one adopter, but this Direct has kind of made me a believer. Like, wow, this game looks absolutely so much fun. So with that, I hope you guys have a good one, and we'll see you next time on Switchcraft and Switchery.